It's the Gems, and we are playing on the Crackpack server. And we are all by ourselves. Not uncommon. So, for today's episode, we're going to deal with lag. Okay, once that lag subsides, let's go check out our quarry. Just do like this is our daily chores, you know. We log on, we check out the quarry, make sure our chests aren't abundantly full, which they are, so I'll come back off camera and clear that out. Poor lead, lots of poor lead ore. What's up with that? Haven't hit diamonds yet. That's okay. A lot of other stuff, so we'll come back and get that too. And it's just doing its thing, you know. Yeah. It's being a quarry. Good times. So, a mod I'd like to cover today is one that I really enjoy. And it has changed drastically with this latest update, with the 7.1. 1.7.10 update? Yeah. It's Applied Energistics. So it has a lot of new machines, a lot of new mechanics, and I have to say, you know, I was a bit leery at first, but once you get the basics set up, automating AE itself, then automating everything else just comes natural. There's a lot of new concepts to understand with it, so there are a lot of limitations that have been imposed with this version. But overall, I am drastically happy with the improvements to machines that they have added, and the graphics are way cool. So let's just jump right in, I guess. Where you start is this guy right here, an energy acceptor. Once you got that, then you can accept energy into your AE network. Or if you have a controller that also accepts energy. In fact, a lot of blocks accept energy. These guys require energy. These that you see are inscribers. They're going to be one of the first things you want to automate if you're going to get a lot of AE stuff going. Because a lot of the recipes require these logistics boards. And let's just show you. So your basic charger shouldn't. I don't think so. Yeah, it just requires a couple of flux crystals, which those are definitely fun to make as well. In fact, most of the basic starting recipes will require you to make those. Such as, like, if you were to do a ME chest. Let's see where chests right here. It's going to require a flux crystal plus 2 cables and a terminal. Like, holy cow! You look at that and you're like, really? That's. And then you look into what each of those are, and it's like, oh my god, that's like 50 steps just to get a chest, right? It's kind of worth it. And then you also have to do the storage component, which that's where your logic processor comes in. So the logic processors have to be made in these inscribers, and the patterns for them, these presses that you see, are found in meteorites that will spawn naturally in the world. And did I cover that in episode 1? I believe I went over it in episode 1, but there is one that is close by to me. I just went ahead and labeled it Strange Anomaly. But right over there I've got one of the meteorite. Oh, spiders just never give up, do they? So right over there I've got one of the Strange Anomalies. Let's throw on our glider and just swing over there if we can. Whee! Do I have to hold space when I'm gliding? I don't know. Alright, turn that back off. Just to give you an idea of what one of them looks like. So there you go. That's your above ground meteorite there. Nice little hole in the ground, if you will. And you will need a diamond level pickaxe to harvest that, because that is basically the equivalent of obsidian. The sky blocks are, and they're also used for the controllers whenever you get to making those. Though you'll probably have to find a couple meteorites before you're able to make the controllers. Each of those meteorites has a chest, a skyblock chest, and within that chest you're going to find like 1 to 3 recipes, I believe. There's a total of 4 press recipes. Well, actually 5. I haven't found the last one yet. It's for naming things, an inscriber name press. I'm guessing that's going to be found in one of the ones that are... So the meteorites can be above ground, or they can be below ground. You have to create this meteorite compass to locate where the meteorites are at. It will go based on what world has been generated so far and point you in the right direction. It's similar to what you would use like Ender Eyes searching for a stronghold. That's basically what that does. And it'll point you to the chunks that it's in, and if it's underground you'll have to go digging and find it. So once you got some of those presses, you want to start with the most important one, your silicon press. Basically plop in a little silicon bowl there, and it presses it into a silicon, printed silicon, which is used to combine with your golden logic pressed one and your calculation pure Solstice quartz one. Alright, so that's how you make the logic boards. How you do the flux crystal. Now this is fun. So you need we'll go ahead and do both of them, I guess. And so you need charged Solstice quartz crystal. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It has to be charged. You can take your normal Solstice quartz crystal we got here, and if you put it in a charger, it charges it after a little while. You do have power, don't you? Should have power. Oh, yep, there one. Okay. So I just charged another crystal. Cool. And you mix that with some redstone and some nether quartz. You're going to be using a lot of nether quartz with this mod, by the way, Applied Energistics too. And you just throw those in some water. You don't need these growth accelerators around them. And then you get back 2 per each of the charged crystals. Or basically the crafting recipe is 1 of each of those gives you 2 flux crystals. So then you take those and mix them with, let's say, quartz fiber, which is this right here. So you have your pulverized quartz and your stained glass. And this will give you a cable. So that's kind of expensive for a cable, right? There's a lot of quartz going into that one single cable. That's not something you just throw around until you're like, you know, mid-game, in-game. So that's how you make that. Just go break that. Those crystal growth accelerators you were seeing, so the pure Solstice quartz, which is used for a lot of recipes, but in particular is a requirement for a couple of them. Like there's no other that you can use. It has to be pure. Is like this, your calculation circuit. To get those, you're going to take your Solstice quartz crystal. I'm not going to take it with us. And you're going to grind it up in a grindstone, which you can quartz grindstone, and you'll get your dust. And with that dust, if you combine it with sand, you'll get the seed. So the seed, this is cool. You take and you throw into water, and it's going to take a long time to grow. Like the first one I threw in there without any of these accelerators hooked up to it, Probably took 3 hours to grow to full. And that's not like in-game time, that's real time. So you could hook up these accelerators to accelerate their growth, and as opposed to say 3 hours, it's only going to take a matter of minutes. And yes, we threw them on the ground, but guess what? They don't despawn. They're going to stay there until they're finished. Oh, did you see they just popped up one? It's pretty cool. So we're growing Solstice quartz right now. How awesome is that? These accelerators are really not too expensive, and they look wicked cool. They do require power to operate. So like if we turn off our power here, you'll see them go black. And you'll stop seeing all the little electrical beams going out of it. This is one of the cool blocks that has some neat fancy graphics. Let's show you the recipe for that, shall we? So it's going to take a couple of your cables, which we just showed how to do that. It's going to take a whole flux block, which is basically 4 of those flux crystals. It's also going to take a couple quartz glass, which is just some ground up nether quartz or Solstice quartz and some glass. Are we finished? I think it's got one more to hop, maybe. It's hard to tell when it finishes. I think it does have those graphics around it too to indicate that it's doing something. So all in all, those aren't too bad to make. They are kind of expensive. And you do get a much quicker growth out of them, which is nice. There we go. And that's how you get your pure crystals. So once you got the basics set up and you're actually making machines, then you need to delve further into Applied Energistics. And this is where it really comes out. Like, Applied Energistics is basically designed for storage and automation. And by automation I mean like automatic crafting and stuff like that. We'll start with how we automated our inscriber setup here. So it's pretty basic. You are going to need one of these ME pattern terminals, which are slightly expensive, as everything is. Let's show you. So the pattern terminal is going to require just a normal crafting terminal plus an engineering processor, which is basically made with a diamond. So there's a diamond. There's one of your pure Solstice crystals with an ME terminal. So the crafting terminal is for crafting. ME terminal is just for regular access. And that's going to require one of your logic processors and some of these annihilation and formation cores, which you're going to see a lot of. Like, those are used all over the place, just like this logic processor is. So those right there are 3 main components you're going to need a lot of when you're crafting. And what was I saying? Okay, so your pattern terminal, and then you need to make some blank patterns, just like your old version of AE. And these patterns, you're actually going to set like what you want to craft with them. And here's one major difference that I've seen so far. So if I wanted to say do a pattern for a dense energy cell, you normally just like hold shift and click on that, and it would plop the pattern in there, right? And then you just tell it to encode. Well, with AE2 you actually have to have the materials to make the pattern. So you can't automate something that you don't already have the materials with which to make. So let's see, maybe we can just do a regular energy cell. There we go, that's cool. And we'll encode it. And there's our pattern for it. So that's how you make patterns. As you see, there's this button here on the side. It's got a toggle between crafting pattern, processing pattern. So crafting pattern is just for your crafting stuff. Processing pattern is, say I wanted to, let's check this here, automate our printed silicon boards here. We would put in like, it's going to take 1 silicon and we're going to get back that. You encode that and there's your pattern. But it has to be on processing pattern for it to be one that you get from a machine that does the processing. So now that we got that pattern, we're going to put that in an ME interface. ME interfaces are also, like everything in this mod, relatively expensive until it's unexpensive. So it's going to require a bit of iron, some glass, and those cores that I was talking about a second ago. So the formation core is a logic processor, your charged Certus quartz or pure quartz. Does it take a regular one too? Okay, yeah. So just a Certus quartz, some flukes dust, which is a ground up flukes crystal, and it's also going to take an annihilation core, which is Certus nether quartz, sorry. Your flukes dust and another logic processor, and you're going to get 2 out of each of those, so it's kind of nice because you're putting a lot in. You should get 2. So now you've got your ME interface, you got your pattern, you got your inscriber. You're gonna put your pattern into the ME interface. You can tell it to point this way. So this is one cool thing about the ME interfaces on this version. If you just grab, let's make one really quick. I think I got it in our, yep, automated. Wicked cool. You usually get to watch it actually built back there, but it's already done. No? Is it not already done? What are you waiting on then? What you waiting on, buddy? Crafting one of those. Doing nothing else. Apparently, I broke the machines. They were working great. Oh! Derp. Derpy derp. That guy actually does require power. So, let's hook him up. I really want to be able to see him. Let's hook him up back here, I guess. Derp. Okay. Oh, we missed it. But it crafted it. So, with these, you can turn them into one of these, which is the same thing as an ME interface, but guess what? It's compact, so you can have multiple of these. Like I said, I wanted to put it there. Pretty cool, huh? Get that back. But I like the blocky ones, to be honest. They're what I've grown accustomed to. I'm getting more used to these arrows and what their functioning brings to the table, but yeah. Awesome so far. So we've got that guy. We've got our pattern, and it's going to go. Oh, sorry about that. Into the side of this inscriber, I have used my little thingy here to flip it around. Normally, you would see it like this, where it's got the press at the top or the bottom, and it like squishes it. So it's going to put that into the side, which is going to come up into this. So we've got the top. Okay, so if you're inserting into this inscriber, you've got the top, the bottom, and the sides. And so it automatically insert the silicon, and it will get back out the printed silicon pattern. So the thing with getting the silicon pattern back out is these machines don't automatically export. So what I've gone ahead and done is I've got your Ender IO item conduits that are just pulling out, and they pull out the finished product. Pretty cool. Alright, so you've got that automated. So now you can go ahead and be like, okay, I want, say, where are they at? Okay, we've got a lot of logic ones. Alright, so we'll say we want 10 of those guys, calculation guys. Done. And then we can watch it here as it presses the pure quartz. It's going to keep doing that, and it's going to then press that with the redstone and your silicon, get the calculation processor. Very nice. If we didn't have the required silicon for it, so I've got this, this one here is a little different than the ones over here because it requires a couple different components. It's going to require your printed silicon, and I've got it set to with a crafting card here, which is how they do the upgrades in this version. So if we don't have one available, it's just going to go ahead and it's got this extra button when we put that in there. So crafting behavior. Use stocked items or craft items. So if I don't have one available, it's going to use one of our CPU guys here, if there's one available, and it's going to go ahead and craft it. And I'm making that distinction because if you just have one CPU and it needs to craft the silicon things to create for this, then it's not going to do it because it needs its own separate CPU to do it. Pretty cool though. And I've got your basic, these are your export buses. So this is just exporting the other required materials. And then your ME stuff here. And that's for each of those. Did I just make an energy cell recipe? Not something I need right away, but maybe I'll show you what it looks like to make one of those. Actually, let's do something a little more complicated so you can look at this awesome block in action. This guy here is your molecular assembler. It's basically your auto crafting table. It works with these ME interfaces amazingly. So we've got, let's say we wanted to do, we've got a basic capacitor from Ender IO there. Let's just go ahead and say we wanted to make one of those. So basic capacitor, grab those out of there. And say we want a couple of them. 10 sounds good. 10's a good number, right? We do have a crafting CPU available. If we named it, or if we wanted to just specify which one it was, that's how we would select. And we go ahead and click start. It tells us what materials it's going to take. Pretty cool. And what it's going to make. Click start there, and we can watch it. Look at it go, guys. Wicked cool. And it should be done. That should be 10 more capacity. Yep. Awesome. So that's the gist of it. Awesome mod, awesome blocks, lots to go. That's your basic crafting with AE. It gets a lot more in depth. In fact, you can do what's called spatial storage, where you actually say I wanted to fit this whole area into one of our storage blocks. Oh, I guess I didn't get into that. So basically your storage with AE is via these storage cells, which are easily crafted, and you can put in either a ME chest or one of these ME drives that holds 10 of them. And oh yeah, something else I should go over are these lines right here that you see. Yeah, so that's very important. These are your channels. Each ME machine can pass through itself 8 channels, and it takes up one of them. So if you look at my tooltip, when I'm looking at this one, it says 6 of 8 channels used, and that's because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 channels. So 6 machines, 6 channels. And then we throw on that, and that gets up to 8. And you notice it says 8 of 8 channels. You can also create what are called dense cables, which will give you up to 32 channels. And I believe each side of an ME controller provides 8, though I don't know the exact specifics on that. It might be 32 per side. And as you can see over here, we have 3 channels used because your interfaces also take a channel. So we've got your 2 interfaces there, or terminals, and your ME drive to make 3. There are a couple blocks that do not use channels, as you probably noticed. These inscribers and your charger and your growth accelerators, all of those just require power. They do not require an ME channel because they're not storing anything, they're not doing any advanced computation. You just throw stuff in, get stuff out. Same for this guy here. Molecular assembler does not require a channel, but the associated ME interfaces I have do. So I've got, what, 3 channels used up here? Yeah. So that's very important. That's, to get into all the end game with this, you're going to need many channels, lots of controllers, lots of crafting CPUs, at least I'd imagine, and a bunch of these molecular assemblers to do all your auto crafting. And one more thing we should probably touch into is the card upgrades. So I showed you this one here. There's your crafting card. You also have all your other cards have been switched to this as well. So like your accelerator card to make things input and output faster. Your redstone card to get the redstone toggle for control by redstone. Your inverter card to like invert what you want stored on something. Like if you had, we'll say a storage bus, and you mark it with cobblestone, then you would only have cobblestone going into that. But if you invert that, put an inverter card in there, that's going to give you everything but cobblestone in that. Your fuzzy card, that's going to allow you to filter metadata stuff, like have the little toggle for percent metadata match. Your crafting card, that's like this, it's going to give you your crafting behavior. Your capacity card, so as you can see, it also tells you what you can put these capacitor cards into. As you can see, it says 2 for import export bus, so I could add 2 capacity cards here. If I add 1 capacity card, I think I'm going to get like those, and if I add the second one, I'll get all 9 blocks will be available. But by default, with any export import bus, you're just going to have the 1 block. There's no fuzzy export bus, there's no precision export bus, it's just an export bus, and you can upgrade it with cards. Way cool. And I think that covers about all I wanted to get into today with it. I might do another one later where we actually get into like spatial storage and have maybe an advanced AE system set up, or maybe this is as advanced as we'll go with it. But it's awesome. I love the improvements they have made, and it's definitely a fun mod to get into. It's not your early game mod because it is going to require a lot of diamonds, a lot of quartz, a lot of nether quartz. So you're going to have to go to the nether first. You're going to have a diamond tool first before you get into the advanced auto crafting with this. But once you get a couple of those basic materials, it is going to make your life a little bit easier. And that's a fact. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.